All right, so today we're diving into something that just might revolutionize your mornings.
Mhm.
We're talking about The 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma. Now, I know you're thinking 5 a.m., no way. But seriously, before you hit that snooze button, there's a lot of really interesting science about why those pre-dawn hours could be like your secret weapon for a more productive and just like a better life overall.
Yeah, you know what's so interesting about Sharma's approach is that he takes all these concepts and kind of weaves them into this narrative. He uses these fictional characters to show you how powerful this whole 5 a.m. philosophy can be.
Right. It's almost like a self-help fable. And honestly, it does make those early mornings seem a little more appealing when you're following these characters along on their journeys. But okay, beyond the storytelling thing, what really got me hooked was the victory hour and that 20-20-20 formula. So you spend the first 20 minutes of your day on some intense exercise, the next 20 on reflection and planning, and then the last 20 on learning. Have you found that kind of structured routine helpful in your own life?
You know, I think the biggest thing to get out of the 20-20-20 formula is that it makes you intentional. There's so much research out there showing that when you start your day with a real purpose, instead of just like reacting to whatever comes at you end up being so much more focused and productive. And when you actually like break down that first hour into these dedicated blocks for, movement, mindfulness, mental stimulation, it really sets the tone for a way more intentional day.
Yeah, that makes sense. So instead of just getting sucked into emails or like, doom scrolling on social media, you're actually prepping your mind and body for success. But what are the science behind it all? The book talks about this boost in dopamine and serotonin from exercising in the morning. What's the connection there?
Well, dopamine is often called the motivation molecule. It's a big part of our reward system. It basically pushes us to look for pleasurable experiences. So when you exercise, your brain releases dopamine, and that creates this feeling of accomplishment and motivation. And that can actually like carry over into other parts of your day. Now, serotonin, on the other hand, that's a neurotransmitter that's really connected to your mood, how well you sleep, and even your appetite. If you can boost those serotonin levels in the morning, you feel calmer, you feel better, and that sets a more positive tone for the rest of the day.
Now, it's not just about, feeling good in the moment. These changes in your brain chemistry actually impact your mood and your motivation all day long. I think that's really fascinating. But let's get practical for a second. Could you see yourself sticking to this 20-20-20 routine every single morning? What would you have to change to make it work for your life?
That's a good question. And it brings up one of the challenges with Sherma's book. It shows this kind of idealized lifestyle that not everyone can actually have. But the cool thing about the 20-20-20 formula is that you can adjust it. Like if you can't find a full hour in the morning, could you break it up? Maybe do 15 minutes of exercise before work, a quick meditation at lunch, and listen to a podcast on your commute. It's about figuring out how to fit in the main ideas, even if you can't follow it exactly.
That's a really good point. It's all about making these ideas work for you in your life. But there's a lot more to the book than just this. Sharma also talks about these four interior empires: mindset, heart set, health set, and soul set. It seems like he wants us to work on improving ourselves in a bunch of different ways, not just by being more productive. How do these empires fit into the whole 5 a.m. philosophy?
You're totally right. The 5 a.m. Club isn't just about getting more done. It's about like living a life with purpose, feeling fulfilled. And that's where those four interior empires come in.
Okay, so let's break those down. Mindset, heart set, health set, and soul set. It sounds kind of like a character sheet from a video game. But really, what do those empires mean?
Well, they represent all these different sides of us as people that we need to like nurture if we want to really thrive. So mindset, that's pretty obvious. It's about our mental state, our beliefs, our thoughts. It's all about cultivating a positive mindset, one that's focused on growth.
So instead of hitting snooze and just dreading the day, you're waking up feeling like you can do anything.
Exactly. Then you've got heart set, which focuses on our emotional well-being, our relationships, how we connect with others. It's about being empathetic, being compassionate, making real human connections.
That's really hitting home for me. It's so easy these days to get caught up in the hustle and forget about real relationships and just taking care of ourselves emotionally.
Totally. Health set is pretty straightforward. It's about putting your physical health first, exercise, nutrition, sleep.
So that ties back to those 20 minutes of exercise in the 20-20-20 formula.
Exactly. And finally, we have soul set. This one's about connecting to something bigger than yourself. Maybe that's through spirituality or nature or just having a sense of purpose that drives you.
It's about that deeper meaning, the thing that gets you out of bed, even if it's not at 5 a.m. I think it's really cool how Sharma combines all these different things like time management, productivity, personal growth,
Yeah.
even spirituality into one big system.
He does, and throughout the book, he uses these really powerful quotes to drive the point home. One that really stuck with me was, "An addiction to distraction is the death of creative production."
Hmm.
I mean, how true is that in today's world where we're constantly bombarded with notifications and information overload?
It's so true. And I think that's a challenge that a lot of our listeners are dealing with too.
Yeah.
But what I like about Sharma is that he doesn't just point out the problem, he gives you solutions. Like the idea of creating a tight bubble of total focus. What does that actually look like?
It's about making a conscious effort to design your environment and your schedule in a way that minimizes distractions and helps you really focus. So maybe that means setting specific work hours, turning off notifications, using noise-canceling headphones, or finding a dedicated workspace where you can really concentrate.
So it's about taking back control of your attention and focusing it on what really matters.
Mm.
I've got to admit, when I first picked up the 5 a.m. club, I was a little skeptical.
Yeah.
But the more we talk about it, the more I'm seeing how much depth there is to these ideas.
I agree. It's not just about waking up early. It's a whole philosophy for living intentionally. It's about matching your actions to your values and creating a life that really reflects who you want to be.
Totally. But let's be real, building these habits, especially waking up at 5 a.m., it's not easy. It takes discipline, commitment, and being willing to push yourself outside your comfort zone. What advice would you give to listeners who might be feeling a little intimidated by all of this?
I'd say start small. You don't have to change your whole life overnight. Maybe you start by setting your alarm just 15 minutes earlier and using that time for some quiet reflection or to do some journaling. Or maybe you commit to just one 20-minute block of focused work each morning, no distractions. Gradual changes are easier to stick with, and they can eventually lead to those bigger transformations.
It's all about building momentum. And that makes me think of something else important. The book talks about sleep discipline. You can't expect to be at your best, let alone wake up at 5 a.m. if you're not getting enough good sleep.
That's crucial. Sharma talks about having a consistent sleep routine, making your bedroom a good sleep environment, and avoiding things like caffeine and alcohol before bed.
I know sleep is a struggle for a lot of people. What are some practical tips that our listeners can use to help them prioritize sleep and improve their sleep hygiene?
One of the best things you can do is create a relaxing bedtime routine. That could be taking a warm bath, reading a book, listening to calming music, or even just doing some deep breathing exercises.
It's about sending a signal to your body and mind that it's time to wind down.
Exactly. Another key thing is making sure your bedroom is actually good for sleeping. That means keeping it dark, cool, and quiet.
So maybe invest in some blackout curtains, earplugs, or a white noise machine if you need to.
Yes. And then, of course, there's the whole digital detox thing. You know that blue light from our phones and computers can mess with your melatonin production, which is the hormone that regulates your sleep-wake cycle.
So no scrolling through social media right before bed.
Exactly. Ideally, you want to stop looking at screens at least an hour before you go to sleep.
I think those are all really practical tips that our listeners can start using right away. And it goes back to that idea of intentional living we were talking about. It's about taking control of your environment, your habits, and ultimately your life.
Absolutely. And speaking of taking control, another great tool that Sharma recommends is daily journaling.
Now, I'll admit I've never been super consistent with journaling, but the book really emphasizes how beneficial it can be, especially for self-reflection and just getting your thoughts clear.
It can really change your life. Journaling gives you the space to process your emotions, figure out what you're thinking, and set intentions for the day ahead.
Yeah, it's like you're having a conversation with yourself, but on paper. You get to really unpack everything that's going on in your head and in your heart.
Exactly. And you don't need to write a novel or anything. Even just like 5 minutes of free writing each morning can make a huge difference. Just let your thoughts flow onto the page, you know? Don't judge yourself or try to make it sound perfect.
I think that's what always trips me up. I get so caught up in trying to make it sound profound or whatever. But the real magic is in the process itself, right?
Absolutely. It's about getting clarity, not winning a writing award.
So, okay, we've covered a ton of stuff today. The 20-20-20 formula, the four interior empires, sleep, discipline, journaling, all of it. But I want to go back to something you said earlier about how this whole 5 a.m. thing might not be for everyone. And that's totally fine, right?
Of course, there's no one right way to be productive or to improve yourself. It's about finding what works for you, your schedule, your lifestyle.
But even if someone isn't ready to go all in on the 5 a.m. club, are there still valuable things they can take away from the book?
For sure. When you really get down to it, the 5 a.m. club is about being intentional with your life. It's about taking control of your time, your energy, everything. It's about making sure your actions are aligned with your goals and your values. And those are principles you can apply no matter what time you wake up.
That's really empowering. It's not about fitting into some perfect mold. It's about creating a life that's really a reflection of you and what you want to do.
Exactly. And I think that's why people are so drawn to this book. It pushes us to step outside of our comfort zones, to be more disciplined, to grow as people, and to try to create a life that's both productive and fulfilling.
I love that. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the 5 a.m. Club, I want to leave you with one last thought. Even if waking up at 5 a.m. just isn't in the cards for you right now, what's one small thing you could change about your morning routine that would give you more time for reflection, for learning, or for focused work? Maybe it's setting your alarm 15 minutes earlier to fit in a quick meditation, or maybe it's just not looking at your phone until you've had a chance to get yourself centered.
Those little changes can add up to big results over time. The key is to be intentional, to decide that you're going to start your day on your terms, not just let it get away from you.
That's such a good point. It's about taking control of your mornings. And in doing that, you're taking control of your life.
Mm.
And who knows, maybe you'll even find yourself inching closer to that 5 a.m. wake-up call. But even if you don't, the important thing is to be mindful, to be present, and to have a purpose when you start each new day.
Couldn't agree more.
And that's our deep dive into the 5 a.m. Club. We hope this has given you something to think about and maybe even inspired you to create a morning routine that helps you live your best life, whatever time that starts for you.
Thanks for joining us.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.